blog then? Like, when did you start? How did you start? Like, how did this idea come to you? Like, I want to be a food blogger.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I was like, let me think about of a food blog name. And at the time that on Amazon Prime, the Maple Leafs documentary All or Nothing was going on, and I was walking to school one day because at the time the lockdown had finished or whatever,
Okay.
so I had to go back into class for the last few weeks of my semester in fourth year. And I was like, what rhymes with halal? Halal, wall, call. I'm like, oh, all, and then all or nothing. Halal or nothing. I'm like, that sounds like a pretty cool name. And then I would send it into my group chat with my family, and then they're like, you know what, that sounds like it has a lot of potential, and alhamdulillah, here we are today. And
What was your family's reaction? Like, how did you justify this to your family that you want to obviously work at the same time, but want to do this on the side? Because, you know, like how desi families
Yeah.
think, bacha distract ho jayega, right? You'll get distracted. So what was your family's reaction when you started?
you know what, honestly, they're like, yeah, do whatever you want. Like, it's cool. They never really thought it was too serious. And then when money started to get in, when first of all, they said, yaar, muft mein khana aa raha hai, badi achhi baat hai. Like, I was like, okay, like, oh wow, Emad is bringing home like all these different, you know, ek din steak la raha hai, ek din chicken la raha hai, ek din pasta, ek din desi khana, you
Maze
know.
ho rahe hain ghar mein.
Bro, the fridge was full of leftovers.
Okay.
Like, until I moved out last year, like the fridge was always full of leftovers from restaurants and stuff like that.
So do you ever feel threatened because of the fact that, okay, if I work on this full time and just rely on it completely, this might not be my passion anymore, just my job?
Yeah. I think for sure that happens a lot. Kha ke thak gaye, man. Like
Kitna
literally.
khaun main?
Yeah, exactly.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Kanani Connection. Today I have a very special guest with me, and I'm sure all of you who are looking for good food in Toronto, GTA, Ontario, you guys have probably seen him doing this. Hey guys, you gotta check this out. So today we have Mr. Emad Ahmed, founder of Halal or Nothing. Hi Emad, how are you?
Assalamualaikum, Jawad. I'm doing good, man. How are you?
Good. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for coming first. Pleasure having you.
Thank you for having me.
How are you feeling?
Alhamdulillah, I feel good.
Is this your first podcast?
This is my first in-person podcast experience. I've had some interviews in the past
Okay.
and whatnot, but other than that, I think this is my first time actually having a conversation in front of a camera like this.
Okay,
So,
nice. And how's life? How's everything else?
alhamdulillah, no complaints. No complaints at all.
All right, perfect. So we'll obviously explore your food blogging, right? But before that, we'll dive deep into your early life as well. Where were you born? What school did you go to? College, university? So let's explore that life first, and then we'll get to the more exciting part, I assume, the food blogging part.
No problem.
So
No
let's start
problem.
from where were you born and what school did you go to?
Yeah, so I was born here in Toronto.
Okay.
So I was born and raised. English is my first language. Was speaking Urdu at home too, but mostly
थोड़ी उर्दू बोल के
English.
दिखा दो.
थोड़ा उर्दू तो बोल सकता हूँ मैं, लेकिन
Okay.
इतना नहीं,
Okay.
इतना अच्छा तो नहीं है,
सही है.
लेकिन
Okay.
आराम से बात तो कर सकता हूँ मैं.
Okay.
But yeah, I was born and raised in Mississauga. For all of you guys who don't know where Mississauga is in the world, it's like they call it Desi Saga because there's so many Pakistanis and Indian people there. But born and raised in Mississauga, so I've been around a very diverse group of individuals. Lots of Desi people, lots of Arab people, lots of white people. So fairly culturally involved upbringing, I would say. I started my schooling in Islamic school. So I had a good Muslim kind of base over there, and then I moved to a private school, did private high schooling in Mississauga as well, and then for university I went to U of T, Rotman School of Management, which is actually where you went, and
Yeah.
which is
I
crazy.
didn't know we went to the same school. I didn't went the same program.
To be honest, it's kind of crazy how we didn't really cross paths. COVID probably got in the middle
I
of
guess,
it, but
yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
we're
I
here
graduated
today.
2020 and you graduated 2022.
2022.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when I graduated, COVID hit like March of 2022 or March of 2020, and I graduated April of 2020. So probably that's why. And I assume you probably didn't meet a lot of Pakistanis during your university time.
I did.
you stay away?
I did. I was a commuter, so I
Okay.
was commuting from Mississauga. So I didn't really stay. I would just go to class and I would go back home. I didn't really stay and go to different events unless I was like actually a part of the organization or something like that. But I would try my best to minimize my time downtown. I would just try and go to school and come back as much as I could.
Got it. So I assume you were born in 1999, 2000,
2000.
right? 2000. Like, when was the first time you visited Pakistan?
First time I visited Pakistan was 2006. I don't remember much of it. I remember I had to go for a bunch of weddings. I got sick. Very typical overseas
Yeah.
Pakistani experience.
Pet kharab.
But then after graduating from Rotman, I remember talking a lot to my parents about reviving that cultural connection that I have to
Okay.
Pakistan. So I made it a thing to actually go to Pakistan after I graduated for a grad trip, and we did northern Pakistan. We did Hunza, Skardu, Gilgit, Naran, did all of that, the whole shebang in Pakistan, and I feel like that trip really kind of helped me connect a little bit more to my Pakistani heritage.
So that
and
was in
whatnot.
2020.
2022.
So how describe that trip? Like
That
how
was
did you find
amazing.
Pakistan
It
overall?
was amazing. It's such a great way to revive your sort of experience with your culture. I would say going there, seeing what the people are like, seeing what the food is like, having some of the street food, seeing the natural beauty of Pakistan, really kind of touches your heart, and it's like, wow, okay, like I'm so proud to be Pakistani and whatnot.
So
right?
what was your favorite place in Pakistan?
Oh, I think Skardu for sure. Skardu was absolutely just beautiful. The mountains were insane. The greenery was awesome. The weather was great. Just the experience was absolutely
Okay,
amazing.
I've never visited North Pakistan, unfortunately, but planning to visit North Pakistan very soon.
It's definitely. I feel like it definitely is a little bit touristy,
It
right?
is.
But and
Okay.
I don't know how.
But was it risky to get there, like the roads and all?
So actually, when I went, they took us on a flight from Islamabad to Skardu.
Oh yeah, I've heard that's
And
the most scenic flight ever.
It is the most scenic flight. It's also one of the
Yeah.
most dangerous flights in
Yeah.
the world. So you don't really know if your plane is gonna land if the weather is bad.
और जाते हुए PIA में हो आप.
But PIA has some of the best pilots in the world, I would say.
That's what
Because
I've
to be
heard.
honest, what happened on that flight was they were descending, and then they decided that this plane is unlandable, and I think there were some cyclones there. Because in Skardu, it's like one of the largest runways in the world or whatever, and it's in between a few mountain ranges, so you kind of have to go around mountains and then decide whether you're not going to land or whether you're going to land or not. So the plane decided that they weren't going to land, or मैं तो फट रहा था भाई. Like we went down, and I was just like,
Okay.
just
Allah.
doing my dua, reading my
सारे गुनाह माफ
kalama.
कर दे.
Yeah. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Like I was just, my head was down. They were telling me to up the tray table, and I said, no, मैं तो यहाँ पे सो रहा हूँ. Like I need to, regain my sense of reality. And then they flew back to Islamabad, and then our trip organizers were nice enough to reorganize the trip, and we took a bus all the way.
So were you brave enough to go back to Skardu in a flight or?
No, we drove.
Oh, you drove.
Yeah,
Okay.
because by then, like I think the weather was pretty bad during the
Okay.
week, so the flights were like not predictable. So we didn't want to go back into a flight and then have the same thing happen to us. So we just decided to, cut one of our days from the itinerary and have it just be like a travel day.
And how was the bus ride? Because I've heard roads they're not the best. They're risky.
You know what? It's not that bad.
Okay.
I would say it's not that bad. I think the Karakoram Highway, like China has helped Pakistan sort of develop that a lot. So it's very nicely paved. It looks dangerous, but it seems like it's okay. And the Pakistani drivers are very, very skilled. They know what they're doing, and I felt that I felt super safe.
And did you visit Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad?
I did. I visited Islamabad, then I visited Karachi, and I had a great time in
Lahore
both
ने
places.
क्या किया था? क्यों छोड़ दिया लाहौर को?
Yaar, I can't say.
Okay.
Lahore.
Lahore.
Yeah.
But okay, how was Karachi?
It was good, amazing. Like I've heard so many bad things about Karachi, and then you go there and then you experience it. You have a little bit of fun and whatnot. Of course, that there's a lot of like bad aspects of Karachi. Us as overseas Pakistanis, we only see like the good parts of Karachi and stuff like that. But nonetheless, like I had a really, really good experience in Karachi. Again, helped me connect with my Pakistani heritage and all that kind of stuff.
How was the food?
It was amazing, excellent.
Better than Toronto?
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I would say like of course the Pakistani food is way better over
Yeah.
there than here. We have some good spots, but nothing really compares. The Western food in Karachi is not that good compared to what we have over here, but it's still pretty good.
What was your favorite spot in Karachi?
I would say like just going on Buns Road,
But okay, Burns Road.
and
Okay.
I had the it's called Malik Nahari.
Oh my God.
I think it's
Malik
like
Nihari.
I think it's a very underrated. People talk about Javed Nahari, Zahid Nahari, but not a lot of people talk about Malik Nahari.
So you know what? I'll just tell you a very interesting story. So my dad's friend, he owns a Malik Nihari,
Oh, okay.
right?
Usko zara bata de, कि you know a food blogger, bro.
And my dad forces us every week to go there and eat, and we're like, nahi, abbu nahi khana. And my dad will be so happy to hear this, you love Malik Nihari.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. I like pehli dafa zindagi mein main like I had Nali Nahari,
Oh, okay.
Magaz Nihari, and it was just a very, very good experience. And I had the recommendation from a local as well.
Okay.
So it was like one of those like, oh, it's not too hyped, so people don't really know too much
It's
about
probably
it.
not Zahid and like Javed Nihari, but
Yes.
yeah, probably like a
Yeah.
very underrated one.
Yeah, I thought that was like nihari is my favorite food.
Okay.
So I found that I was like, I need to go and have like the best nihari in the world,
Mm,
and I was recommended Malik Nihari, and it did not disappoint at all.
got it. Acha, you mentioned that you wanted to connect your roots, right? So like you told your parents that we should
Mhm.
visit Pakistan more often. But wo kaise, like how did that feeling came into you? Okay, I would just wanna be connected to my roots. I actually wanna go to Pakistan, meet Pakistani
Yeah,
people.
yeah. No, I think that's a really great question. I think the biggest thing that kind of sparked that thing inside me to be more Muslim, to be more Pakistani, was in 2019. I don't know if you remember, there was a big shooting that happened in a masjid in New Zealand, the
Oh yeah, yeah, I heard of
Christchurch
the Christchurch, yeah.
Christchurch mosque shooting that happened, and I remember that it was March 2019, and that had happened, and I remember I was in university, I think first year at the time, and I was Muslim. I would still pray. I would still like fast. I would still eat halal, all that kind of stuff. But then I really started to question myself. Okay, like what is my identity? Like I have all of these labels attached to me, and not necessarily are labels bad for you to be associated with a specific label like Muslim or Pakistani or brown or Canadian or whatever it is. So when that happened, I really started to question myself. I remember I couldn't sleep after a few days. And then the next day there was Jummah at the masjid. I was like, who knows if somebody gonna come in here and shoot the whole place up or something like that because of some random, hate crime that happened
Hmm.
in New Zealand. So I really started to question myself, who am I as a Muslim? What does it mean to be a Muslim? And I have all these other labels attached to me. It was primarily with the label of being Muslim, but then it was also the label of being Pakistani. What does it mean to be Pakistani? What does it mean to be brown? What does it mean to be Muslim? So I remember I kind of had a little bit of like an identity crisis where I was just asking myself a lot of questions. So I got really into just like studying Islam, learning a little bit more about just like the history of Islam and all that kind of stuff. And that sparked me to go for itikaf
Oh, okay.
that
Fair
year.
enough.
So I ended up going for itikaf at Isna Masjid in Mississauga. And that was kind of like a life changing experience where I was just like kind of rejuvenated in terms of my spirit and whatnot. And then from that point on, I was just like, I have to, like, this is an amana that Allah has put into me. He's entrusted me. He's made me this way for a reason. He's made me Pakistani. He's made me Muslim for a reason. And now I have to take that as responsibility and be the best version and the best representation of those labels that I can.
It's amazing because like how a lot of people who were born here, right? Like for example, we met like a lot of people in university who were born here, raised here, and they disassociate themselves being called as Pakistanis, or they don't want to hang out with Pakistanis. It's amazing you wanted to connect to those people, and like you visited Pakistan, and it's absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on to your university life, right? So, were you a good student?
I wouldn't say I was a great student.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I was a good student.
Okay.
I would say I pulled good grades, slightly above average, I would say. But I was not a great studier. Like I hated studying. I often spent more time doing like things like extracurriculars rather than actually studying for my exams. All of my econ exams, I remember studying the day before and not really caring too much about the grade that I would get. But alhamdulillah,
But why
um,
U of T?
UFT was just UFT hota hai bhai. Like
Because वो होता है ना कि for example, you come to U of T because you have to study. If you have to study hard, you have to make a good career out of it. You just don't study. But the fact that you just said कि मैं पढ़ाई में इतना अच्छा था, but शौक नहीं था. So were you forced to come to U of T, or were you like you just came on your own will?
no, I
UFT जाना है?
came on my own will. I
Okay.
think, to be honest, there's a few schools that I wanted to get into that I didn't get into, and I was like, okay, Rotman is the best option or whatever. I might
Wait,
as well
what
go.
school was that?
I think it was at the time it was Western Ivy and
Oh,
Schulich,
okay.
and I got into Rotman, and I was like, chalo, I'll just go to U of T.
So Rotman wasn't your first choice.
Rotman wasn't my first choice. I can say
okay.
that pretty loudly, but I was like, you know what, it'll still be a great opportunity. My brother had gone to U of T. My mom actually did some stuff at U of T, and my uncle had gone to U of T. So
Family tradition.
family tradition a little bit, but I didn't really hear that U of T was like a studying school. My brother was in life science. I was like, oh, he's in life science. Like,
Especially a few programs where like the life science program, maybe the engineering
yeah,
program,
the
Rotman
the
program.
expectation is for
Yeah.
you to study. I didn't know that about Rotman. I was like, oh, it's business. It could be a little bit easier and all that kind of stuff. But I was completely wrong. And I remember going to visit a few friends at Western, and then they were showing me their econ homework, and they were in third year university. I was like, this is like what I learned in like first semester of first year or whatever, right? So I didn't know that the academic rigor would be at that level going into U of T, but nonetheless, I think alhamdulillah, like it shaped a lot of who I am today, going through the experience of U of Ters. But alhamdulillah, I wasn't the best student, but I still managed to pull through because I think I'm fairly competent in a lot of different areas.
And how was COVID for you, right? Because obviously it was just not work from home, but study from home, right? You had all those online classes. So did you like that, or did you like you hated that? Okay.
Yeah, no, to be honest, I loved it. I thought it was I don't think anybody would say no to online school. The fact that you
Yeah.
don't have to come into exams, like the standard for what testing was a little bit different. Like it's not like you had to overly prepare. A lot of the ways that they would do testing would purposely make it open book because they know that a lot of people like have things open. They just make it a little bit harder or whatever. But I loved being at home. I loved like just not having to go into school and not having to participate the way that I would participate normally in
But
class.
what about the university experience?
I think I missed out a lot on the university experience. Like we're kind of talking
Yeah.
before we started the
Yeah.
podcast today about like, oh, you weren't in PSF or you weren't in the Pakistani Students Federation or the MSA or anything like that. And I feel like I missed out on that aspect and making a lot of friends. I would say that to this day, like I don't have that many friends that I met at U of T. A lot of the friends that I met were either online, like through online stuff like TikTok or random making videos or group chats or a lot of my high school friends I'm still very, very close to because that's all who we had during the time of university and stuff like that. But a lot of my close friends are still people that I met in university, or at least like had good relationships in the university, and maybe they were in another part of my life. Like a lot of my close friends, like I went to Rotman with, but I also went to high school with, right? So it definitely took away from the university experience for sure. And of course, like there's a little bit of like sadness towards that. But Allah, it puts you through different tests, and those are the cards that you've been dealt. It's your job to kind of navigate the world.
And was it? I'm not sure when you started your food blog, but we'll come to it after. But was it difficult to find your first job after graduation?
Yeah, I would say so. I had an internship in my third year. I worked
Okay.
for a pharmaceutical company,
Okay.
and they weren't hiring business interns. They were hiring people who were doing their masters in biotech. So I didn't receive a return offer like most kind of third year interns do. So I had to go through the recruit, and I was very hard set on going into consulting. And I was like, I want to do consulting because I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. Like I was so
But was
all
there
over the
any
place.
specific type of consulting you're interested in, or was it just consulting?
I think it was just consulting.
Okay.
I was just like, I need to figure out, like, I'm still young. I need to figure out where I'm going in life. And I think consulting would be a great start because you get tastes of different industries and whatnot. So I went through the recruit, and then I think in the month of February before I graduated, I got a job offer at Oracle. And then I started my career there in September 2022.
And how was that overall?
Alhamdulillah, it was good. I think it was a good experience, I would say. Consulting is a great place to start. I think there's a lot of experience with sitting down with C-suite executives and talking to people who are far above you, and the way that it kind of shapes your soft skills and the way you navigate conversations is a very, very important skill that not a lot of jobs teach, or not a lot of jobs give you the opportunity to learn. So I think that helped me a lot in my like public speaking abilities, and being a consultant, you have to be a pretty good time manager, project manager, pretty good communicator. So in terms of like the soft skills, I would say that consulting job that I have has refined my abilities quite a bit.
Amazing. All right. So what about the food blog then? Like, when did you start? How did you start? Like, how did this idea come to you? Like, I want to be a food blogger.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So basically, in COVID, I remember I had an Android, and I was like going through Instagram, and
Yeah.
I would always see these funny videos and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm funnier than all these guys. I was like, I'm funnier, and I'm
Okay.
gonna be funnier than all these people. Not to sound arrogant or anything like that. I was like, yeah, I feel like people are going viral for the wrong reasons. And then I actually started like a TikTok page, and I think within my first few posts, I got really viral. Like I got
Okay.
like a video of like 50,000 likes. It was like
And what kind of videos
it
were
was like it was like Desi comedy. It was like Muslim comedy. It was like all this like
they?
random hodgepodge of things and
Okay.
topics or whatever. So I remember one of the first viral videos I had was I don't know if you remember the sound. There's some guy in Pakistan. He's like, well done, तालियां होनी चाहिए.
I don't remember. नहीं.
हर गुनाह के पीछे शैतान नहीं होता, or something,
Okay,
something
okay.
like that.
Okay.
And then I used that sound, that audio that I found that I found on Twitter or something
Yeah.
like that, and I used it on TikTok. And like within a few weeks, there was like thousands of videos using that audio, and they're like, "Oh, this guy started that trend or whatever," right? So then I got a lot of followers, and I kept posting and posting and posting, and I got like 49,000 followers
On
just on TikTok. And
And
then
sorry, that was under your name?
that was under
account?
my name. It was
Okay.
literally just Emad Ahmed.
Okay.
And then I kind of fell out of love for it, and I was like, you know what? I need to stop. I need to like perfect my image a little bit. That was in 2020, by the way. So after my second year of university, after in COVID, I got an iPhone and I started just making content. And then when I got my internship in third year, I was like, I need to be a little bit on my best behavior now.
Professional.
I have a job now. I can't make too many jokes. And then I just stopped making content. And then in 2022, I was like, you know what? I have all of this experience making content, going viral. I know what I'm doing somehow, no, to a certain extent. And then I was like, I love eating, and I love going out with my friends, and I spend a lot of money on food. And I used to record it all the time and post it on my story on Instagram.
Like the food pictures.
Yeah, just the
Okay.
pictures of the food. And then
You're like my wife. I hate it, but okay. Every time the food comes in table, she's like, Jawad, stop.
yeah. Camera eats first,
I'm
always.
like, oh man, I just want to eat.
The camera eats first,
मेरा अपनी
always.
plate की लो, मेरी plate की क्यों ले रही हो?
And then by the time the food gets cold or whatever, फिर मजा पूरा खराब हो
You're
जाता है.
you're to blame for that then. Because
Well,
you started that trend.
I'm sorry about that. Well,
But okay.
but then I literally was just made a few videos, and then made some reviews, and I did some honest reviews, and I did it on my personal platform where I had 49,000 followers, and I saw that a few of those videos went viral. I was like, you know what, this has a lot of potential, because every single one of these food reviews is getting over like 10,000 views. So I was like, let me think about of a food blog name. And at the time that on Amazon Prime, the Maple Leafs documentary All or Nothing was going on, and I was walking to school one day because at the time the lockdown had finished or whatever,
Okay.
so I had to go back into class for the last few weeks of my semester in fourth year. And I was like, what rhymes with halal? Halal, wall, call. I'm like, oh, all, and then all or nothing. Halal or nothing. I'm like, that sounds like a pretty cool name. And then I would send it into my group chat with my family, and then they're like, you know what, that sounds like it has a lot of potential, and alhamdulillah, here we are today. And from that point on, like, I literally just strategically thought out a template of how to create videos and do voiceovers and all that kind of stuff. And then within 2-3 weeks of starting the food page, I had my first collab with a restaurant. And then from
And
there,
this was what, 2021?
2022.
2022, right? And have you been consistently doing this since like up till now?
Yeah, I've been very consistent. I would say like I probably haven't. There have been maybe some periods of like a few days that I've missed a few posts or whatever, but for the most part, I would say like every other day I've been very consistent.
But did you treat this as your job, or was it just your passion that you've been?
No, it was a pure passion, I would say, but it definitely started with the idea that I could become a personality, and I could take this to another level and have some sort of a business, right? So the reason, like, I knew that I wanted to call it something very general, not just food related. If it wasn't like Halal Eats or something like that, Toronto Halal or something like that, it was Halal or Nothing, because I knew that that name had an ability to kind of branch out into other things, right? So that's kind of where it started, man.
And what was your family's reaction? Like, how did you justify this to your family that you wanna obviously work at the same time, but wanna do this on the side? Because you know, like how desi families
Yeah.
think, "Bacha distract ho jayega," right? You'll get distracted. So, what was your family's reaction when you started?
You know what? Honestly, they were like, "Yeah, do whatever you want. Like, it's cool." They never really thought it was too serious. And then when money started to get in, when first of all they said, "Yaar, muft mein khana aa raha hai, badi achhi baat hai." Like I was like, okay, like, oh wow, Emad is bringing home like all these different, you know, ek din steak la raha hai, ek din chicken la raha hai, ek din pasta, ek din desi khana, you
Maze ho
know.
rahe hai, ghar mein.
Bro, the fridge was full of leftovers.
Okay.
Like until I moved out last year, like the fridge was always full of leftovers from restaurants and stuff like that. But once like money started to get involved or whatever, and people were like, you know, doing promotion and all that kind of stuff, and it became like a business, right? Where you're managing your relationships with different clients or restaurants and whatnot, and talking to them about like their digital marketing strategies and
Mm-hmm.
how to go viral, and posts on my page and all that kind of stuff. And at the same time, I was also maintaining that integrity of honestly doing stuff. Like there's so many restaurants I've said no to because I'm not about just the money. Like I'm about the integrity and the flavor. And at the end of the day, like I'm a food reviewer rather than a food promoter,
Mm.
right? So when it started to get very serious with like the amount of like potential it had, my parents were like, oh, like don't go too crazy and all that kind of stuff. Like focus on your job, focus on your career, shadi karo, like all that kind of stuff. And then it just started percolating. Like it just like if 9 to 5 I was working, and 5 to 9 I was like going to a restaurant and editing and scripting for my voiceovers and stuff like that. And most of the time I would be working literally from 8 or 9 a.m. until like 8 or 9 p.m, going to different restaurants and managing my job. And sometimes it would be anywhere between 12 to 14 hour days with managing the business and managing full-time work.
But did your family's reaction change when you got your first paycheck from a restaurant? That okay, you got your first deal, and now you're bringing in money. So did
Mhm.
your family's reaction change, or was it still the same? कि यार नहीं ये तो शौक है और ये खत्म हो
Yeah, I
जाएगा.
think I think at the start it was just like, oh, that's great. Like
Okay.
it's a side hustle.
Yeah.
It's good. It's like, you've monetized your passion and stuff like that. But until recently it started to kind of kick into another gear. And then I would say that more of the serious questions about like choosing passion over a corporate career were up in the air a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say for the most part, as compared to most Desi parents, my parents were very on board and they're very supportive of me going on my journey, and they saw a lot of potential in it. And alhamdulillah, like you go as far as your parents' duas and stuff like that. So I couldn't have been in this position today like without them and their support. And if they didn't support me, I don't even know where Halal or Nothing would be today.
Correct. But like when you started this, how difficult was it to balance your corporate life and your blog at the same time? Because you just said you worked 9 to 9, right?
Yeah.
So did you get burnt out? Did it affect your personal relationships? How difficult was it?
hmm I would say it was pretty difficult, and it didn't really get to that point until it really started to pick up, and it was like almost like every day, like going out or whatever. I would already go out after work, and I would already go and see my friends and go out to eat, right? So it's not like my lifestyle would change that much, or even like I would go out with my parents and go in these food videos, or go with my brothers or something like that, and go for these food reviews. It was a way for me to monetarily benefit, socially benefit, right? I could amalgamate all of my differences together. I could amalgamate everything together. I could amalgamate business with social, with physiological, right? Business meaning I make money. I could socialize with my friends, and I can eat at the same time. So it was like
Mm-hmm.
killing three birds with one stone. So it was a very productive way of, a productive use of my time. So when it started to get like very like I would be out like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It got very serious, where, and it still is very serious. Where I was just out all the time, and then like sometimes like my parents would just be like, dude, you're never home.
Mm-hmm.
You're never home. Like you gotta सिर्फ आप सोने के लिए
सोने के लिए आ गए हो,
yeah
होटल समझा कर.
yeah ये आपका घर है या होटल है, yeah, something like that. But I would say like then I would start to put a little bit more like limitation. Yeah, so until it got to a point where I was like, okay, I have to limit myself a little
Mm-hmm.
bit. I have to maybe go like 2 3 times a week, 4 times a week max, and then the other days I would maybe go play softball, or go play soccer, or go out with my family and all that kind of stuff. And then when I started, when I met my wife or whatever, then I was just like, okay, I really have to limit this, because now I have to spend time with my future spouse and whatnot.
But in 2022, right, when you got your first brand deal, did you double down on the effort that you put in? कि यार ठीक है, this is getting real. I need to work harder, and this could be a big thing.
Yeah, to be honest, I think the effort has been the same, relatively the same since the start. I think there's a lot more of the client relationship aspect of it, and managing relationships with different people. I know a lot more people now, and the fact that I know a lot more people, I have more and more contacts. So the fact that I have more and more contacts means I get more messages, more requests, all that kind of stuff. And with the growth of the page, of course, you have to keep up with that.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of like effort, like it takes me the same amount of time to edit, the same amount of time to script, the same amount of time to voice over. So from an effort perspective, it's been fairly similar.
Interesting. All right, let's move on. So I see on social media, there are like a lot of people who are doing the same thing now,
Hmm.
right? How do you feel about it? And do you feel like people are copying you or they're just getting inspired by you?
I think it's both. I think people are definitely copying me. People are definitely taking inspiration from me. A
Okay.
lot of pages have shown up after me. A lot of people are doing things in the same format and the same way that I talk. But I prefer to see myself a little bit more as a trendsetter and
Hmm.
the person that everybody's following. So it's almost like I have responsibility too to keep the trends innovative and all that kind of stuff, so people can have somebody to look up to. But I would say like the biggest difference between me and all of these other food bloggers that are just copying me or taking inspiration from me is that I'm just being myself, and the fact that I'm just being myself is taking me to the next level. Like I'm being as authentic and genuine as I can. The same version of me and on Halal or Nothing is the same version you're gonna get outside of Halal or Nothing, like in the
Hmm.
house and whatnot. So I try and be as authentic as possible. Just try and be myself, and of course with that like personality or charisma associated with it, you can't
Hmm.
really copy that.
And again, obviously, when for example, when a restaurant hires you, for example, to promote their brand or their food, right? And so, is it really your charisma, or because you just said, okay, that's what differentiates you, right? So, is this really your charisma, or is that your content as well? Because that's different as well. Because I've seen a lot of people, it's literally the same content, like they're just copying you, right? So, do you feel like that it's your charisma that differentiates you, other than that?
Yeah, I think
Because
it's a
sorry, interrupting you, because I just feel like content is important as well, because
mhm,
the visuals you see, the text you see on the videos, right?
mhm.
So I assume that's important as well. So for example, if someone's just copying you right away, right? So how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like I think very much so in the long term. So maybe in the short term, it could work out that you're copying me or you're going to the same restaurants and you're even word for word using the exact same words that I would describe it. But in the short term, that might work for you, that might get you some views or whatever, but in the long term it's very hard to stay consistent, it's very hard to develop those relationships, right? There's a whole aspect of things apart from just the content that people don't see when it comes to negotiations with restaurants, when it comes to thoda sa makan lang
Mm.
ana hai kisi ko or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's an art to that as well, and I think a lot of people don't really know that. And just having a business background and having a professional business background and a corporate business background, I think that shapes you in a way where you can be very, very professional. And a lot of people that are in this food blogging space like don't have that kind of experience.
Interesting. That's amazing, and I absolutely like your work, right? And I when I see your videos, and like for example, when I see other bloggers videos, right? I'm saying, they're so similar, right?
Hmm.
But again, it's probably your charisma and your guys. Check this out, that differentiates you.
Yeah, I think
I mean, sorry, like people are copying this as well,
there's
like.
a lot of elements
Yeah,
or a lot of ingredients to the
yeah.
secret sauce or whatever. But I think a lot of that is just being natural and genuine and whatnot. And when you have the right intentions, then Allah is gonna bless you in the ways that He is provision for you to be blessed.
Yeah. Actually, earlier you said you are a food promoter. Oh, sorry, you're a food reviewer and not a food promoter. But for example, if a restaurant comes to you, like Imad, promoter food will pay you a certain amount. Would you not promote it?
Um, to be honest, and I say this with like just full transparency, I say no to a lot of restaurants, which means I leave a lot of money on the table, right? I could take all that money, or I could, there's might be a brand that I don't personally eat at, or I am very, very open about saying that I don't like that person's food or whatever. But if they're saying no, like I'll give you hush money, or I'll give you money to promote this certain thing, if I don't align with the brand's values and I don't align with the restaurant and I don't like the food, why should I promote it? Right? At that point, I'm just being hungry for money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just being hungry for promotion. I have to have some sort of level of integrity, and I have a brand to maintain. And these things hurt the brand, right? When you promote a place where somebody will comment and say, like, oh, he's definitely just in it for the money or something like that, then it hurts your brand. So I try and keep it to places um, that I'll actually enjoy or eat at, or I'll return to, or I'll recommend to other people. versus the places that I wouldn't kind of go to, and we won't mention too many names, but there
Yeah.
have been instances.
But for example, when a restaurant reaches out to you, do you say, I'll come out, try the food, and if I like it, then I'll promote it? Like, how does it work?
No, I never do that because that takes too much time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it'll take me time. Like if I'm driving all the way from
Yeah.
Mississauga to Oshawa,
Yeah.
right? I'm not gonna go all an hour and a half just to try food and then strike a deal and then come back again to
And go,
review
yeah.
it, right? I usually have a pretty decent radar where I'll like look at their Google reviews. Like if it's under a 4.0, I'm sorry, like however much you want to pay me, I can't promote it, right? 4.0 on Google with a decent amount of reviews, some sort of online presence. Like if you're, you're investing in your marketing a little bit, or maybe even just the food looks good, or if it's something different, right? If it's like an average just burger joint or whatever, like what value, like you could pay me and you can get value out of my page, but what value am I adding to you when you're just a regular like burger spot or something like that? Like it won't have that like long-term impact. So there's a lot I could say about this.
You can. It's fine.
Like I would say like just genuinely speaking, like I just try and keep things as authentic as possible, and then if a restaurant is calling me in, like I'll see if I like the food, and if it's something I'm interested in, I'll go. If I'm not interested in it, then I won't go. Sometimes they'll be like, I really want you to come to my restaurant. Then I'll be like, okay, but either get your reviews up, or send me videos of the food, or improve your marketing a little bit, like something like that. Then I'll go and try the food or something like that. Or if I'm the first one and I'm introducing the place to the GTA or something like that, then I might be more inclined to do it. But it just depends.
Have there been a case where you go to a restaurant, you're taking your first bite, and you're like, man, I shouldn't promote this. Why am I doing this?
Actually, today I went to a place.
Okay.
Literally right before this, and I went and I was like, wow, I just went to a place, and I posted it on my Instagram story on my close friends. And I was like, guys, I just went to a restaurant and I didn't like the food. What should I do about it? And all that kind of stuff. Just looking for advice. But I know deep down inside that I'm going to go back to that guy and be like, listen, man, I'm sorry, but I can't promote it. And I would give feedback. Because there have been instances where, there are certain dishes where people are asking for feedback and I give my honest feedback or whatever. Or if he gives me something on the table that I really don't like, but all the other food is, mediocre or fine or something that other people will eat, no problem. Like I'll promote that because I know a lot of people will still enjoy it. It might not be up to my standards, or it could be up to my standards. But if there's a specific dish on the table or something like that, I might just omit the videos of that because I know people go into my videos and they're like, "What's that? I want that thing because that looks good." Because you can make something look good, but it can actually like not be that good. So there have been a few instances where like that has kind of happened. Like today, I'm probably gonna go back to the guy and just be like, "Listen, man, refund the money." Or even just pay for the food and then just move on with my life and just give constructive criticism about how he should run his business, free advice, free consulting, and then just move on with my life.
Now there have been instances where you promoted a restaurant, and when your friends went there, they tried it, and they're like, Emad, come on, it's not great.
Yeah, there has, and I'm not gonna lie, like of that's gonna happen regardless because my experience is going to be very different than a lot of other people's experience because they know I'm a food blogger. They know they're paying for it. They know I have followers or whatever. So they're going to make sure that they do their goddamn best to give me the best food and the best hospitality and all that kind of stuff.
The best presentation of the food,
right?
Everything, yeah.
The best everything, right? And sometimes I'll be the first one in there. And then people will complain about the service after, or like a video goes viral. I literally made the video viral, or like the people viral. There's a lineup out the door and they complain about the service. I'm like, listen, like I didn't get that service. Like I try and focus just on the on the food aspect of it, not just the service aspect or whatever. I just try and purely talk about the taste and whatnot. But it happens. Quality goes up and down, service goes up and down, businesses change, owners change, suppliers change, quality changes, right? So my job again, like, is to just introduce and also tell people about the spots that I really enjoy and whatnot, or what's really good about this spot, and give recommendations and give recommended dishes from my end. And at the end of the day, taste is one of those things that is just subjective because you could love something and somebody would be like, no, I hate that place. Or somebody could be like, I love this spot, but I could be like, nah, it's whatever. Right?
And what's your favorite cuisine? Like that's where, like, for example, if a restaurant who sells the shawarma, for example, if assuming you love it, you're like, oh man, come on, it won't be bad. I'll just go promote it. Or like, what's your go-to cuisine?
Like to promote or to
promote
eat?
And to eat.
I would say my go-to cuisine to promote would probably be, anything that's a little bit innovative, and that more often is like Asian food, I would say, like sometimes like noodle soups or like Korean barbecue if somebody's trying to promote that or something like that. That's probably a little bit like those are the ones that I know that are going to be viral. If it's like a shawarma, if it's like a burger, like a Pakistani joint or something like that, I can't count on that being viral. But like with like Asian food, I'm like I can usually count on it being viral. So I like Asian food. So
Okay. And you recently
yeah,
went to Japan as well.
yeah,
How was that?
it's good. Alhamdulillah, it was good.
And how was the food there? And was it easy to find halal food over there as well?
The food there was okay. I
Okay.
would say like the sushi was excellent. Sushi was amazing. The halal food was okay. I found that I started eating vegan towards the end of the trip because I was a little bit disappointed by some of the halal spots. And when I started doing that, I thought the food was excellent. So I thought it was pretty easy to find halal food over there. I would say it's not that difficult. People know, like I went to a few restaurants and they knew exactly what halal was, despite the language barrier and stuff. So I found that it was pretty easy to find halal food there. The quality was still good. Like I'm not gonna say the food was bad over there. It just was a little bit overhyped, and the vegan food and the sushi was just on another level, like really really good.
Amazing. Perfect. Acha, I'm just gonna go back to our earlier conversation. So, do you think your, I wouldn't say competitors or other food bloggers, do you think that they promote anything for money or are they maintaining quality as well?
Yeah, no, I think most people are not.
Because, sorry, because the fact that, for example, sometimes, when you're getting a lot of money, you just compromise on your ethics
Yeah,
or values, right? And you're like, Mujhe kya hai? I'm just gonna go get the money, promote it, put up a video, and I'm done,
yeah, you know
right?
what they say, money talks, right?
Absolutely.
Money
Yeah.
definitely talks. I
Yeah.
think it certainly was hard for me to say no to a lot of uh, monetary opportunity and to leave a lot of money on the table. So that definitely means that a lot of people are dealing with the same struggles and whatnot. I know some people that do a really really good job
Mm-hmm.
of saying no to restaurants or making sure that their standards are maintained of like super high quality. But without a doubt, like a lot of people are definitely giving into it and taking the money and then just rolling with it.
Amazing. Also, do you think the market has sort of matured and saturated? Because like every single day there's a new food blogger out there.
Yeah,
I mean, I also started a podcast, so I'm sure like every single day there's a new podcaster out there
yeah,
as well. But do you think the market has sort of saturated and it's very competitive? Because for example, initially it was you and probably four others. Now they're like 50, 100 others, right?
yeah,
Every mom is running a food blog from their homes, right?
yeah.
So what do you think about
I think
this? What are your
100% is
thoughts?
oversaturated,
Okay.
without a doubt. Like there's no, but I'm speaking from the top of the funnel, or the bottom,
Okay.
the bottom of the funnel.
Okay.
Like I'm the top of the pyramid.
Yeah,
Alhamdulillah.
yeah.
Like Allah has blessed me with the platform where I have some of the most followers in North America with regards to this specific niche of halal food. There's a lot of halal food bloggers, but anybody's post can go viral. Like anybody that like somebody could have 0 followers and their post could do better than mine, right? And their post could bring more business. But the fact that I've had that consistency and I've been doing it for so long and I've developed those relationships, not everybody is doing that. So there's more like longevity in my brand because there's much more of a foundation built on it than other people's.
And how important is word of mouth? For example, when you go to a restaurant, did other restaurant owner refer you to this restaurant owner? Like, did they talk among themselves like you should hire Emad, man?
Oh
Like,
yeah,
this
all the
worked out.
time. All the time. I have so many people who are literally like, I tell this person that like to tell you, and man, I told them they shut down, but I told them to get Imad in and they wouldn't have shut down or something like that.
Okay.
Or literally just the craziest statements. Imad like crashed my POS system. I had to turn Uber off because of Imad's videos and stuff like that. So there's a lot of word of mouth going on behind the scenes saying that you have to get halal or nothing in. You have to get halal or nothing in because his video does wonders, right? And the problem is that I'll only come in if I think the food is going to be good, right? And a lot of the times, like I don't go into a restaurant. I would say an overwhelming majority of the time, I say no to going into a restaurant than saying yes.
And how important is it for a new restaurant, especially, to hire an influencer, a food influencer, right? Because, for example, I feel like Toronto's or GTA's or Canada's halal food has evolved so much.
Yeah.
Like every single week there's a new restaurant opening, right? So is it important for every new restaurant to hire an influencer just to get that first, 100 customers?
Yeah, no, I think 100% the value as influencers as a marketing channel, I think that's where their value is that first initial post. If I'm being completely honest, as a marketing professional, as somebody who has a degree in marketing, I would probably say that influencers shouldn't be your go-to with a lot of different ways of promotion. But I think when it comes to a new restaurant and talking about when it comes to talking about promoting a new restaurant for the first time, like what better way to get the word out than having like kind of like a mass, like somebody with a big following, just kind of and having your video pushed to that,
Yeah.
right?
And how do you think the Toronto halal food has evolved over time? Because we have that famous Ridgeway Plaza, right? Like you go, you have hundreds of all halal restaurants, right? And obviously, I'm sure you probably have seen a boom in your business as well because of that, right? But overall, in terms of halal food options, how has that evolved in
Yeah,
Toronto?
I think it's evolving pretty steadily. There's always a new restaurant opening up. I think
Yeah,
Mississauga is like basically banning new restaurants from opening up,
really.
but they have like either have to purchase an existing restaurant or something like that to open up, or an existing kitchen to open up your space, because there's a big saturation of restaurants in Mississauga, especially. But the halal food scene has been expanding. The real test of seeing halal food expand is seeing non-halal restaurants like becoming halal or offering halal options, and I've seen that, more often than not, I would say like 50 to 60% of the time, like you'll find some halal option at any restaurant.
Also, like obviously, like when I go to a especially a fine dining restaurant right here in Toronto, they'll serve you alcohol,
Mm-hmm.
but they'll serve you halal food. I'm not sure if you promote such restaurants, but what do you
Mm-hmm.
think about that? So, uh, should you go to such restaurants to eat halal food? Should you trust them? I'm sure they have the
Mm-hmm.
certificate, right? But there could be some sort of contamination.
Yeah, there's a lot that I could say about this
Yeah,
as well. One, I'm not a sheikh or a scholar or anything
yeah.
like that. I'm not here to tell you you should eat at a restaurant or you shouldn't eat at a restaurant. But when it comes to alcohol and stuff like that, my level of comfortability is as long as there's no alcohol on the table, then I'm totally good,
Okay.
right? There are a lot of halal restaurants out there that are not that are changed their suppliers. There are a lot of halal restaurants that might not have fully halal ingredients that brand themselves as halal or something like that. There's a lot of restaurants that serve alcohol that are fully halal or whatever, right? So as long as it conforms to your level of comfortability, I think it's fine. But me personally speaking, like I would be comfortable going to like a fine dining restaurant that serves alcohol as long as there's no alcohol on my table or there's no alcohol on my meal. And most of the time, when it comes to a level of service, most fine dining restaurants in Toronto will go above and beyond to try and make sure that you have a very comfortable experience, because they care a lot about customer service,
Mm.
right? Which a lot of halal restaurants don't care about.
But do you sometimes get hate on your reel? Why are you promoting this? Negative comments, and how do you deal with
Yeah.
those negative comments? Because like, do they affect you mentally? Because sometimes people do not realize that they're not just attacking you. Sometimes they just attack your families as well, right? So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, so I think from a negative comments perspective, so I used to do ratings, right? And I
Yeah.
would be like, oh, this is a 3 out of 10, this is a 4 out of 10, this is a 10 out of 10 or whatever. And over time, I matured a little bit, and I would say that, you know what, like I'm messing with somebody's risk,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm messing with somebody's ability to put food on their table. If I give them a 3 out of 10, people will also bash them or whatever, right? So I'm not a part of that like personality. I'm not a part of that sort of wavelength where you go and you bash a business or whatever. You're here to support them, and if you want to give nasiha or give advice or something like that, you do it in private, or you don't have to publicize all of that kind of stuff. So I learned the hard way where I got a lot of negative comments after a video and stuff like that, and I had thick skin, but I listen and I read and stuff like that. I don't let it get to me. It kind of just goes in one ear and out the other, but I still read them and take feedback and whatnot. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I did as in terms of feedback, as I
Yeah.
stopped doing ratings, because I know that I could mess with a restaurant or whatever.
And do you try to read all the comments that you get?
Definitely, I would say sometimes like there's just too many comments, like on a giveaway or something like that. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's like thousands and thousands of comments. I can't sift through them, and sometimes like you just get too busy, so
Do
you
you have
can't
your
really.
Instagram notifications on your phone?
Not for comments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure it just gets too busy on your phone.
Yeah, no,
Too many
without a doubt,
notifications and
you
just
have to turn your notifications off. But I get a lot of like negative comments, but you'd be surprised. Like any restaurant that serves shisha, any
Mhm.
restaurant that serves alcohol, machine slaughter versus hand slaughter, gas done versus non-gas done. Like there's so many levels to it, where it's just like at the point you have to accept that whatever video you post, you're gonna get hate on it. You're gonna
Mhm.
love a spot, you're gonna say it's the best spot, or you're gonna say it's so good because you actually had a genuinely amazing experience,
Mhm.
and somebody else might not have that experience, and they're gonna trash your comments or whatever.
Mhm.
Majority of the time I get comments, I would say that they're probably negative. They're not like, wow, this guy is spitting facts, this guy, you should definitely go to this restaurant. It's more like, no, don't listen to this guy. So I find that people are a little bit more inclined to comment on something when they have a negative experience rather than a positive experience. But when I actually talk to people in person and meet them in person, I hear nothing but good things.
Also, like, do you feel like, because new restaurants reach out to you, or let's assume that one day it's going to be an end, right? Where, okay, there are no new restaurants opening. You just said, okay, Misaga is not opening new restaurants, right? So what do you plan? Do you plan to pivot from food,
Mhm.
or do you have any other plans other than just food?
Well, I will say that when it comes to like new restaurants is one aspect of
Yeah.
the business, right? You can promote restaurants, you can promote new menus, you can promote like things like change of season and patios, you can promote deals, and that stuff is never gonna stop,
Okay.
right? New restaurants in Mississauga, like there's still new restaurants in Mississauga. I just think like just the space that they're occupying, they're not allowing like more of that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there's still because there's new restaurants because there's restaurants closing down as
Mm-hmm.
well, right? So there's always something to cover, and yeah, I definitely envision myself expanding beyond food. You
Mm-hmm.
know, travel, finance, lifestyle, all that kind of stuff. Because halal isn't just something that is attributed to just food. It's attributed to tarbiyah and like interacting with others and finance and lifestyle and all that kind of stuff. So halal is definitely a term that could be applied in a lot of different aspects, and I definitely, inshallah, like expect to expand
So
beyond my horizons of food.
do you plan to do that soon, or is that something that you have in mind that you have to work on it
Yeah,
in the
I,
future?
I I could plan all I want, but Allah is the best of planners, right?
Okay.
So let's see what happens.
Amazing. All right, Mad. So we'll just quickly end this. What are your future plans currently? Like, do you intend to work on this full time? Maybe one day that, okay, you leave your corporate job. Maybe one day you're like, okay, I just want to focus on this. Or do you just intend to, balance
Mhm.
both of these together? Because, like sometimes people say, like, if your feet are on both boats together, you're probably, drown, right? So what are your plans there?
Yeah, you know what? Everything हर चीज सोच समझ के करना पड़ता है,
ठीक है. I
right?
I love your Urdu, bro.
So it's not that good, but alhamdulillah. But I would say like everything, you have a reasoning behind everything.
Mhm.
You have to be tactical and you have to be strategic about every decision that you make.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not an easy decision for no entrepreneur. Like it's definitely not something that you should just you know jump into the deep end for. Like you have to first learn how to swim a little bit,
Mhm.
float, and then take off the life jacket, and then you realize how to tread water, right? When it comes to something that you're passionate about, you have to make sure that your passion isn't becoming something that you're losing passion for, right? So
Mhm.
you have to strike a balance between like maintaining that passion and keeping the fire lit, right? When it comes to your passion and a monetary aspect to it, then it becomes a little bit serious where you're just like, okay, like this is something I'm passionate about and I'm making money from it. Where should I go? Versus like a corporate job where, you more often than not probably not passionate about that. It's more out of like a physiological thing where it's just like I need to make money and I need to have some sort of job security and whatnot. So I think with any business and with any entrepreneur, like the goal is always to take that kind of stuff full time because you're passionate about it and you're your own boss and all that kind of stuff. So I think inshallah plans will be to take it full time. But with regards to corporate work right now, I think there's still a lot of value in that.
But do you ever feel like that once you work on this full time and you just treat this as work, it won't be the same compared to, because currently it's your passion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, like, and it happens with everyone, right? For example, if you rely on one thing, and for example, if it's your passion, for example, I play cricket, for example, and if I start playing that professionally, eventually I will get burnt out, right? And you're like, because I'll just treat this as my job. So do you ever feel threatened because of the fact that, okay, if I work on this full time and just rely on it completely, this might not be my passion anymore, just my job.
Yeah. I think for sure that happens a lot. खा खा के थक गई man.
हाँ,
Like
कि कितना
literally.
खाऊं मैं?
Yeah, exactly. It's literally, oh, I have to go to another burger
Yeah.
spot, or sometimes like you get that, or sometimes like literally
And
physically, right?
sorry, sometimes a restaurant calls you, यार burger खा रहा हूं
Yeah. Literally, legit. So I think sometimes like you do have those questions or whatever, but part of being in the halal space and the Muslim space and all that kind of stuff, you're just like, well, you provide so much value beyond that. So one
Yeah.
of the biggest aspects of halal or nothing is the charitable component. So alhamdulillah, over the last 3 years, we've been able to raise $200,000
Oh
for
wow, mashallah.
several different uh, causes. Orphans in Pakistan with Islamic Relief Canada, the earthquake that happened in Turkey and Syria with Islamic Relief Canada, Gaza with Islamic Relief Canada, Gaza with Human Appeal, and then feeding the fasting with Human Appeal. Alhamdulillah, this last Ramadan we raised over $105,000, right? So when you're making that impact, and I actually got the chance to go to Pakistan in 2023 with Islamic Relief Canada to do a psychosocial support camp for children and whatnot. So when you unlock those opportunities, to go and visit children in Pakistan, to go and raise money for Gaza, right? There's so much more of a fulfillment aspect that comes with that just keeps you going. That, oh my God, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me such an amazing opportunity to provide so much value to those who need it more than me, right? So it's a trust that Allah has instilled in me to do good for the greater good.
And I totally agree. I think the most fulfilling part of anything is to help people, right? If you have the ability to help people, I just think it's amazing, and it just helps you sleep at night.
100%.
Yeah. I think it was great having you.
Thank
So
you.
we'll just get to the last part of it, right? So I put up an Instagram post before you were coming here, right? And I had ask a question for people, right? So like Emad's coming, ask a question, right? So I have a few questions for you.
Okay.
And these are not my questions. These are from people, right? Who just want to talk to you, right?
Okay. Awesome.
So I'll just ask you a few questions here. So if someone wants to start food blogging today, what's your one golden piece of advice?
Be consistent.
That's it.
That's it.
What about the content quality?
It'll come with time.
All right.
You'll find your niche. You will find exactly what your style is. Be yourself and be consistent.
And the fact, for example, if someone's like, okay, I just want to start food blogging, is there any certain aspect that they should target, or just market any food in the start? Just find your niche in the start, and then you'll just probably get a hold of it?
literally find your niche. It's with anything in life. It's all
Yeah.
about like finding your niche. You can't just generalize and then expect to go viral or whatever. You have to start somewhere and then kind of blossom out. But definitely just start somewhere. You want to start food blogging? Go out there, spend some money, go take some videos of food, eat it, make your reviews, and then just keep being consistent with that, because that's how I started.
Yeah. Do you think your niche now is those connections and all of that, or is it your content?
I definitely feel like it's both,
Okay.
because like people know you, people know what your content does, people know where you're coming from, like what impact that you have and stuff like that. So the word gets around pretty quick or whatever. So definitely people already know that if they're opening a restaurant, you have to get halal or nothing in first, you know.
Amazing. Perfect. Next, how do you manage your corporate career and running this big food blog? How do you get burnt out?
Yes.
Okay.
It happens, alhamdulillah, but just keeping yourself grounded, making sure that you have good connections with your family, whether that's your parents, your spouse, your close siblings and whatnot, maintaining good relationships with them, because they're the ones who will keep you as honest as possible. They're the ones who will be straight to you. They will they'll give you the best advice. And then just managing your time really, really well. That's the only way that you could balance any sort of business with working full time.
Amazing. Perfect. How do you balance it's done. Okay. It's just balance your full-time job and content creation, because I think a lot of people are just interested. How do you balance both of these big things?
It's literally just having a very, very well documented Google or Apple calendar, and then just being very diligent about how you respond to people and how you communicate with people and stuff.
This one's an intense one. What sacrifices do you have to make to keep it all running?
Oof, man, lots of sacrifices. You leave a lot of money on the table. You spend less time at home. Like you're meant, like in the North American society, you're meant to work 8 hours a day, right? 8 hours for sleep, 8 hours for your day, and then 8 hours for yourself, right? Whether that's spending time with your family, self-compassion, self-care, hobbies, all that kind of stuff. When you're working another business, like, and that could be a part of your hobbies or your self-care or whatever it is, but sometimes you stretch yourself out so thin that it gets exhausting a little bit. But having a good circle of friends, having a good circle of family, people to give you those words of affirmation, to keep going and supporting you, like that stuff is definitely lighting a fire, and it's bringing that extrinsic motivation.
Amazing. Perfect. Do you consider this as your passion project or an actual job?
An actual job,
right
100%.
Now. Okay.
It is a passion. It is a passion project, but there's so much value that I'm providing to businesses. Like I feel like I'm providing a lot more value with Halal or Nothing to businesses than I am as a consultant in my full-time job, right? So when you see the value of it, when you see results, you definitely feel, and you put in work. Like you spend time editing, you spend time eating, which is the hardest part of it all.
Yeah.
And you see the results, you're of course you're like it's a job. It's 100% a job.
All right. Ask Emad, is he a one-man team or over time has he built like a proper team for himself?
I'm a one-man team.
Okay, so you do all
One-man
the
show.
recordings, all the
I do all of the
edits.
voiceovers. I do all of the scripting. I do all of the filming. Maybe sometimes I'll usually tell people to come eat with me at whatever restaurant I'm going, and I'll tell them to hold the camera and just do this or whatever and help me out a little bit. That's about as far as the help I like.
Yeah.
That's as far
Probably
as
your
it
friends
goes.
and family.
Friends
Yeah.
and family usually that help me out, and sometimes it's a worker if I'm going to
Okay.
to a restaurant by myself. But apart from that, in terms of like employees and in terms of like the actual final product of editing and all that kind of stuff, alhamdulillah, I do everything myself.
Got it. If you're going to a really good restaurant, you can invite me. I can help you.
No problem.
Yeah, I'll come for the food.
You're always welcome.
All right, these two, the last two ones, they're like the funny ones, right? One overrated and one underrated food trend in Toronto.
Oof, that's really tough.
Uh,
Dubai chocolate. Dubai chocolate, I think, is a
Pistachio
trend.
chocolate,
I
right?
think it's a trend that is here to stay.
That is here to stay.
I think it's a
Okay.
trend that is here to stay. You know, sometimes like you'll see like oh this is the viral mozzarella cheesesteak or something like that. That people will get tired of that. But Dubai chocolate, I think was.
But do you like it?
I love it.
Oh,
I think it was
okay.
very revolutionary. I think like it is here to stay forever. Kunafa, it's crispy, crunchy, nutty, chocolatey. Like it's a very very exceptional invention, and I think it's here to
So
stay.
you feel like this
Contrary
is
to popular belief, I would
so
say.
this is an underrated trend still. Like I mean, it's a viral trend.
Yeah.
But do you see there's a potential for it to
Oh,
go
100%.
even
I don't
further?
think it's overrated. I think it's
Okay.
here to stay.
And what about one overrated trend?
One overrated trend. That's a very, very
Yeah.
tough question. There's a lot of trends that go in and out.
Yeah.
I think I think like I kind of mentioned like the mozzarella stick trend that's
Okay.
going. I don't know if you've seen it where they have these like there's this place in the States called Chili's
Okay.
where they have this like mozzarella stick that's deep fried and you can stretch it out all the way.
Mhm.
But I think that people will, like as you get older you'll get tired of like fried food, cheese. It's not a healthy thing or whatever. So I don't think that's not that Dubai chocolate is any healthier or whatever. It's probably a lot less healthy than cheese, the deep fried cheese or whatever. But I think that anything that has to do with like all excess amounts of sugar, excess amounts of like fried, like you ever go to the CNE and it's like deep fried pickles, deep fried
Yes.
Oreos, and
I
random
hate those
things.
deep fried desserts.
I think a lot of that stuff, yeah, it might be a trend. It might be there for like one summer or whatever, but like it has no longevity because like your body's gonna
Probably there
get
for the
cracked
summer
down.
time.
Yeah.
All right. So I actually have two more questions for
Okay,
you.
no
Actually, I just found another interesting one. Do you eat all the food yourself after filming?
Absolutely not. I have a group chat of like 80 guys that are ready to eat, and I say I'm going here first come first serve, and then people come to the restaurants or whatever, and they help me eat the food.
You
and
you
stuff.
guys, you need to add me in that group chat.
I'll add you, no problem, no problem, no problem.
Come on, okay. That's
But I
that's
do
a very
eat the
nice
food.
offer.
I do
Okay.
try like basically everything.
Okay.
Unless I know I'm like really not gonna like it or something like that, which is like not that often. But I do eat and I try everything, and I try my best to have an empty stomach whenever I go to a restaurant. The only times I don't have an empty stomach is when I'm doing back-to-back restaurants, and I'm like, oh wow, like I'm just so full from the last restaurant that I can't really properly try it. And also like if I'm a food reviewer, I have to try the food. I can't just like promote it and be like, oh, this is so good without even trying it. I'm lying. Like, I'm gonna have to answer Allah on the day of judgment for that.
One last question, and probably a very difficult one. Emad's thoughts on Ridgeway Plaza. Is it overwhelming for him? How many restaurants has he promoted in Ridgeway Plaza?
I can't give you a number for
Okay.
that. I have no idea.
Okay. But probably a lot.
Is it overhyped? Yes, it is.
Okay.
I think the food there is not as good as a lot of other restaurants in a lot of places or whatever. But from a convenience factor, it's excellent because sometimes even I'm based in Mississauga in the Mississauga area, so I'm just like I don't even know where to eat. I'll just go to Ridgeway. Kuch na kuch to hoga wahi pe,
All right. Thank you so much, Emad.
No
So
problem.
that was all. Thank you so much for coming. And I really hope that you just keep us giving good food reviews so that we can just go have good food in Toronto, good
Inshallah.
halal food in Toronto. Thank you very much. And for the audience, I hope you guys liked the conversation. Please subscribe, and I hope you guys please subscribe and see you guys in the next podcast.